Welcome to Fireside Nets with Spen and Nick, episode 195. This is your number one place for all Brooklyn Nets news, information, reactions, predictions, etc. And we are back from the dead. Nick and I have not the Nets aren't, but you and I are.
I suppose.
We have not recorded, and I want to say 3 weeks. I'd like to say we have a legitimate excuse, but hey, life's going to life sometimes. And I'm not going to have the motivation to record a podcast for a minute. That's rarely going to happen. I'm usually pretty good. I think this is the longest hiatus that I've gone on from recording a podcast since I started the show 4 years ago with Nick. But we're back. We're going to be talking NBA playoffs. We'll talk a little bit about the Knicks' demise. But of course, we're going to get into everything regarding your Brooklyn Nets. And it's been a fun offseason so far. There's a lot of chatter on Nets Twitter about what's going to happen. Obviously, we hire a new head coach in Jordi Fernandez. So excited for that change in culture surrounding the team. But I think the biggest thing for Nets fans was the moment that the Cavaliers lost to the Celtics in 5 games. The Donovan Mitchell watch begins. Now, Donovan Mitchell has 1 year left on his contract. Cleveland thinks that they can re-sign him to an extension or to a max contract. The Nets, along with several other teams, including, I think, the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers, are interested in the services of Donovan Mitchell. Nick, what do you think about the possibility? And before I talk about Donovan Mitchell, just how are you? How's it going?
That's not important. I think Donovan Mitchell is a better star than Mikal Bridges. I don't think a lot of people would argue with that. Numbers-wise, he is superior. Clutch time, he is superior. More experienced, more comfortable being in that number one position for a team offensively. I hear so much. I mean, I don't know. Have you seen any rumors on Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks or leaving? Because everyone fucking talks about, especially living in Brooklyn and New York, everyone talks about the Villanova squad wanting to rekindle. So I'm assuming if there was to be a move for Donovan Mitchell, that would involve getting rid of Mikal Bridges, but you would know better than I would on the specifics there.
Yeah, no. There's no way that the Nets are going to move Mikal Bridges for Donovan Mitchell. And by the way, the two do have a relationship. They are friendly off the court.
But how would they play side by side? Like, now you're putting the Nets in a position almost like the Suns are, where you just put 3 scorers. Obviously, it's not 3.
You'd probably be moving Cam Thomas in a trade for Donovan Mitchell.
Of course.
Cavaliers want to get younger. They're probably going to, if they move Mitchell, they're probably going to pay Garland. Garland. You'd like to think that they can build a Cam Thomas, Darius Garland backcourt, which could be fun.
Side note, you know who fell off, who I think me and you really wanted to see become a star? Caris LeVert. Like, he's just fine. Like, he's just like a fine second or third option on a slightly above average team. I watched him in the playoffs for the Cavs. He has good games. He has bad games. He's almost like falling into the Spencer Dinwiddie abyss of he stays kind of the same and just gets older until he fades into darkness. I think he's 29 now. I was hoping for him to have a bigger career. I mean, when you see the Cavs on paper, if you're thinking LeVert with more potential, Jared Allen with more potential, I'm a big Mobley guy. Donovan Mitchell is, of course, fantastic. I like Garland a lot. Strus is a good role player, a good three-point shooter. You'd think on paper that team would have been put up more of a fight in the playoffs. I know Mitchell got hurt, and they ended up losing to the Cavs those last 2 games without him. So that's just a side note. I was hoping for more things from LeVert. To get back to the Mitchell conversation, I would love Donovan Mitchell. At this point, I would love any sort of switcheroony because whatever we're doing does not seem to be working. Mikal Bridges has not sold me at all as the number one option. I think most times me and you actually prefer the ball in Cam Thomas's hands come crunch time. So I'm open to Mitchell. If you're telling me him and Bridges could work together, that's cool. I guess more firepower on the same team. Maybe take a load of pressure off Bridges' back, which he seems to be affected by. But I don't think that solves a lot of the issues at hand, right? Like, we still are putting Day'Ron Sharpe and Noah Clowney in for decent minutes, and they're still such amateur NBA players. So, I mean, you put Mitchell on that team, okay. Is it a step in the right direction? Sure. Are we even as good as the Cavs? Like, I don't know.
All right, so a few things. Number one, Donovan Mitchell averaged 26.6 points per game on 46% from the field, 37% from three-point range. And when the playoffs happened, he upped those statistics. He's a bona fide stud. I think the Nets would be silly not to inquire about the services of a talented guard like Donovan Mitchell, who can absolutely play alongside Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges does not need the ball in his hands to be effective. He can play off the ball. I think he's a little bit more comfortable playing off the ball. So I would 100% sign up for Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, and then I guess Dennis Schroeder is your starting point guard. I'd sign up for that backcourt / front court. Whoever, I guess Bridges would be your small forward there. I'm not sure how we started talking about Noah Clowney and Day'Ron Sharpe. Obviously, Clowney's still very raw. He showed us some really great things at the end of the year this season. Day'Ron Sharpe's been up and down. Still not sold on him being a long-term player on this Brooklyn Nets team. But the one thing I want to say is I don't think that anyone would argue the Nets are a Donovan Mitchell away from being a championship contender.
Of course.
That's a start. What happens is you get a guy like Mitchell in a place like Brooklyn who's happy
in a time like this on a planet.
He can attract other guys to come to this squad. Because all of a sudden, if you have a team with Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, Nick Claxton maybe gets re-signed, those are three guys that if I'm a legitimate player in the NBA and I want to join a team that can be a contender in the playoffs, I might have Brooklyn circled, right? Don't forget, we have all these picks from the Phoenix Suns, a la the Kevin Durant trade. So while the future looked extremely bleak for Brooklyn at the beginning of this season, the fact that the Phoenix Suns were absolute duty in the playoffs, they got swept by the Timberwolves in that first round, that helps the Nets a lot. And if the Suns decide to blow it up and stink, those picks their value is gonna be a lot higher. So I like the position the Nets are in. I don't think adding a guy like Donovan Mitchell makes you a championship contender, but it definitely puts you on the path. And it also proves this narrative that, hey, the Nets can't attract superstars anymore, right? It didn't work out with KD, Harden, and Kyrie, so nobody wants to come play for the Nets. Well, if you get a guy like Donovan Mitchell to sign a big deal in Brooklyn, then that theory goes out the window. All of a sudden, you're an attractive place for stars again. So that, for me, is the biggest reason why I'd want Donovan Mitchell in Brooklyn. And if you have to say goodbye to Cam Thomas, it is what it is. He was great while he was here. He's had some really good moments, but you don't pass on a guy in Donovan Mitchell who, Nick, he's only 27 years old.
That's surprising. I would have said 28, 29. I agree. I mean, listen, yes. Do I get frustrated with the immediacy in which I want to do well and have this team be successful? That's out the door, right? Like, we went from a three-studded superstar team to completely hitting the reset button, and now with draft picks and young talent trying to rebuild. So for me, yes, Donovan Mitchell, like you said, is a step in the right direction. I love Donovan Mitchell. I love his game. I love what he brings to the table. Yes, it will take time. I guess, to me, I want to know, okay, if Donovan Mitchell comes, who else wants to come? Like, are there people in talks? Are there people who are saying to each other right now, hey, we could build a better team in Brooklyn once Donovan Mitchell gets there? I would want to hear some talks, and I would want to hear some trade rumors, knowing that that's going to happen. Because if you said to me right now, we're giving up Cam Thomas, who's arguably our most electric player last season and a very mediocre season, and getting Donovan Mitchell, and that's kind of the extent of it, I'm kind of sitting here saying, okay, that threads the needle slightly in a better direction. But like you said, so many moving parts need to then come into play. So agreed on all fronts. We both are fully on board that Donovan Mitchell is better for Brooklyn than without Donovan Mitchell, and better for Brooklyn with Donovan Mitchell and without Cam Thomas too. But I would need to know some other things are in the works before I'm sold, even from a developmental perspective on this team.
So there's kind of a crazy curveball that could happen. So I just played our live feed, which was pretty embarrassing. The Cavaliers they have a decision to make. So if they offer Donovan Mitchell the money and he takes it, Darius Garland is probably gone, and he's going to want to sign elsewhere, demand a trade. I'm not sure how that contract looks. I think he's still on a rookie deal, or he's on one of his first deals. But then is Darius Garland a target for Brooklyn potentially. You pair him with Cam Thomas and you get that backcourt in Brooklyn. Does that duo entice you, Nick? Darius Garland and Cam Thomas.
I do like Darius Garland a lot. I think Darius Garland is a guy that honestly is almost like an De'Aaron Fox or an SGA, where if given the reins on a young team, he could step up and be a superstar. He hasn't been given that opportunity. There's been times where Mitchell went down and he stepped up and people were like, holy shit, this dude could play. I will cut him a break. He did not have a good game in that last playoff game against the Celtics a few weeks ago, which was sad because everyone else, like Mobley was having an unbelievable game. I think Strus, like everyone was shooting lights out, and all Garland needed to do was not go like 3 for 16, and he did. And I know they only lost by a couple buckets, but I like Garland. If you're telling me Garland and Cam versus Mitchell, obviously I'm still taking Mitchell. Cam and Garland are just kind of two young, electric offensive players. That's great. Are they the guys you want to form a team with? I always refer to like the 08 Celtics, where I thought they hand selected that combination so fucking well, right? Paul Pierce, reliable scorer, 2-point game, unbelievable. Ray Allen, knockdown 3-point shooter. KG, rebounding, big man down low. You kind of hit every front. Every conversation we're having right now kind of leans to two scorers that kind of do the same thing, two small forwards that kind of do the same thing. That we've seen doesn't really work. You had Doncic and Brunson on the same team, and now look what happened when you got rid of another potential superstar. I still believe that a team should be built around one star. If you're going to have two stars, I'd want it to be like an AD LeBron situation where they're entirely different positions. I think the Celtics, you could say Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are similar, but okay, they also now have Drew Holiday, Porzingis, and Derek White, who is now like a fringe elite point guard. So no, I don't think Cam Thomas and Garland is the solution, although I love Garland. If you sent Garland my way, I would want to kind of reformulate it with like Garland, Mikal Bridges, try to get a better big and work in that regard. But I don't think a backcourt of Cam Thomas and Garland is the answer long-term or short-term.
How old do you think Darius Garland is?
I'm going to say 24.
He is. Did you look that up?
No, I didn't. I just knew he was young. And by the tone of your question, too. What's the deal with Claxton these days?
Yeah, he's eligible for an extension. The Nets want to keep him. All indications are that the Nets want to keep him, and I don't know if he wants to come back. I believe that the Nets can offer him the most money. Nick Claxton is just 25 years of age. He's coming off one of his better seasons, which he averaged 12 points per game, 9.9 rebounds per game. So he was a 12-10 guy this year. Shot 63% from the field, 6'11". It also depends. Yeah. So I love Claxton. You love Claxton. We love Claxton. He, she, they love Claxton. I just think we have to start turning the blame on the Nets organization when it comes to Claxton not elevating to the next level. And he's been doing great. 12-10 is fantastic. He doesn't have a true point guard. Can we talk about that? Claxton thrived, right, with like a Harden, with someone who created a double team and then alley-ooped it to him, like created for him. We don't have in our lineup right now someone getting Claxton like Capella numbers. Claxton theoretically should be getting. I think Schroeder has looked okay with Claxton.
He's not getting the ball that much. He's not the
start next year at point guard right now. He's the starting point guard right now.
Maybe I need to see that. But last season he wasn't the guy getting the most touches. You were giving Thomas, you were giving Bridges, and you were giving who's the other, Cam Johnson more touches than Schroeder.
Listen, down the stretch of the season, Dennis Schroeder touched the ball as much as Mikal Bridges, not as much as Cam Thomas, but Schroeder was the second most consistent guy on the team down the stretch. Now Schroeder wants to be here. He's been in a few different places, so he wants to try to make Brooklyn his home. I get what you're saying.
Then maybe it's him going into that position fully, because I want Claxton to become a 15 and 12 guy. You know what I mean? Like that to me, 17 and 12. That's what's separating a Claxton from a Capella in his prime on the Rockets, or even a Gobert. And obviously Gobert, we don't have to get into the Gobert controversy, 4-time defensive player of the year, and people still think he sucks. But there is a level that Claxton hasn't unlocked, and whether or not that's putting on a few more LBs, refining his game, or having someone who's just getting him the ball more. I mean, I guess that's up for debate and what to be seen.
I want to talk about Mikal Bridges. So Nets are on record. They do not want to move Mikal Bridges. that doesn't mean, Nick, that other teams aren't still interested in him. Primarily the Houston Rockets. You mentioned the New York Knicks, and there's probably a few other teams out there. But let's start with the Houston Rockets, because there is, there was a lot of speculation throughout the season that the Rockets wanted to offer the Nets this crazy package for Mikal Bridges. That package included Jalen Green, a ton of first-round picks. The Nets said no. So obviously, Mikal does not have a great second half to the year. He kind of looked like a shell of himself. And he'll admit it. He didn't play his best basketball in the second half of this year for Brooklyn. So kind of two questions. It's really one question. So at Nets Frequent, great Nets account on Twitter, they posted this hypothetical trade. Houston would receive Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, a Phoenix 2025 first, a Phoenix 2026 swap, and a Phoenix 2027 first. The Nets would receive, okay, this is very unlikely now that I'm reading it. The Nets would receive Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore, and Dylan Brooks, and then 3 of Brooklyn's picks that they had traded Houston in the Harden deal, a 2025 swap, a 2026 first, and a 2027 swap. That's a hypothetical. I mean, do you even like that trade, giving up Mikal, Cam, and 3 picks for Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore, and Dylan Brooks?
No, I absolutely despise Dylan Brooks, first of all. And it sounds like, again, we're just keep pushing to the future of hoping getting better draft picks. None of the guys you just said to me are going to turn into superstars. Like, who? Green?
I like Jalen Green.
I like him. I don't know. Nothing's selling me. It's too much. It's too many unknowns.
Too many unknowns. Okay. All right. That's fair. Take out those guys. So you wouldn't want to trade Mikal and let's just say Mikal by himself for Jalen Green and a ton of first round picks?
I'm open to that if you're minimizing it to that point. Don't give me Dylan Brooks. Like, I'd rather die.
Don't give me Dylan Brooks.
I would rather get like thrown into a pit of fire than Dylan Brooks be included in a trade. You can't have like the most hated player in the NBA come to your team and like have to somewhat root for him. It's like, I don't want Dylan Brooks. I don't want Grayson Allen. They're not even like PJ Tucker or Beverly types where they're just like, or Tyson Chandler. Like, they're not guys who you're like, oh man, I'd love him if he was on my team, but I hate him because he's not. Those are like guys like, I hate that he's not on my team, and if he comes to my team, I'm still gonna hate him.
You brought it up earlier, but they're mentioned as a team that's very interested in Mikal Bridges, and that is our crosstown rival, the New York Knicks. Now, Billy Reinhart, very popular account on Nets Twitter, he tweeted the other day, trades like this between the Nets and the Knicks rarely happen when it comes to core players. You're never really going to see the Nets or the Knicks try to help each other out by trading them. Here you go. Here's the tweet. The Nets don't plan to trade Mikal Bridges. Even if they did, the Knicks likely wouldn't have the most appealing offer for Brooklyn. That would be Houston. And even if the Knicks did have the best offer, inner city trades are rare, especially when a prominent player is involved. Bridges to the Knicks is fan fiction. That's all. That was at Billy Reinhart. Check him out. Is there any way, Nick, that you can possibly see Joe Tsai and Sean Marks moving who they have considered the franchise player at certain parts of the last season and a half to the New York Knicks?
It would have to be so enticing. He'd want to want out at that point. We felt it was better for us. I mean, why not? I hate the Knicks with a burning passion, not as much as I hate the Boston Celtics. I don't want to talk about the game last night. This is the Tuesday, May 21st game.
We're gonna talk about the game in a little bit, so you're gonna have.
I had to really Goose Fraba anger management reference to calm myself down there. I don't know. I mean, if you're telling me the stats point to them not making the trade, I guess I would say they're probably not going to do it. But if you're telling me he wants to go be reunited in New York and play for the Knickerbockers, and it's going to somewhat benefit us, we feel like we're getting rid of someone but getting someone better in return, I would hope we would make a strategic decision that was best for the team. But I do think it sounds a little bit like fantasy. Yes.
Bless you. There aren't a lot of things that could make me question my fandom for the Nets. The Nets moved from New Jersey to Brooklyn about 15 to 17 years ago since now. And many people stopped rooting for the Nets. And I said, no, I'm not going to go root for the Knicks. I'm not going to root for another team. I'm going to stay loyal despite the city change. If you took pound for pound, probably the best player on our team. I think he's still a better basketball player than Cam Thomas, just in terms of offense and defense. When he's right, I don't think mentally he was right the second half of the season. I think that the losing and just the overall workload got to him. But if you're going to go and take him and move him to the Knicks, who just lost in 7 games in the second round of the playoffs, they're trending upward. They have a franchise player in Jalen Brunson. They have a really talented core in Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, and Brunson. If you're gonna go and trade Mikal there, that would make me question my Nets fandom. Now, I probably wouldn't stop rooting for them, but I don't think I'd be more mad than if that happened.
Okay, fair.
The only way, listen, let me ask you this. What about a Julius Randle for Mikal Bridges swap straight up?
I don't want Julius Randle.
Okay.
Wherever he goes, he seems to be a cancer. I agree. He's a good player. But, I mean, the Knicks made a playoff run that you could argue they might not have made it that far with him. For some reason, they with Hart and DiVincenzo as the 2 and 3, they clicked on all cylinders. You could argue the Knicks could have gone a lot further, and I hate to say that, if it wasn't for injuries. Anunoby was out. I mean, yes, Randall was injured, but even before that, Anunoby was not injured. They were playing great with all those guys. So, yeah, I'm not sold on Randall whatsoever.
We are going to get to the Knicks. I do want to talk about the playoffs.
Randall is a poor man's Zion Williamson.
Great. This is the last. That's a terrible comparison. This is the last Nets topic before we get to the rest of the NBA. So we spent a good 20 minutes on the Nets. I like it. The Nets are retiring Vince Carter's jersey. They're going to retire the number 15 jersey of Vince Carter. They made the video announcement on Wednesday of last week, I believe. Carter played 4.5 seasons with the Nets while they were in New Jersey. He averaged 23.6 points per game. He owns their single season record with 2,070 points in the 06-07 season. He is third in franchise history in points and is in the Nets' top 10 in numerous other categories. He'll be the 7th player with a retired jersey. Can you name any of the other 6
of the Nets retired jerseys?
Let's see how many you can get. Yeah, I have the list in front of me.
I'm going to say Jason Kidd.
Yes.
Drazen Petrovic.
Yes.
Julius Irving.
That's 3. I don't think you get any others.
Kenny Anderson.
No.
Jason Collins.
No. The other 3. You got no. You're not going to get the other 3. Buck Williams.
No.
Super John Williamson.
Oh, you know what's funny? I knew there was a John Williamson. I wouldn't have guessed it because I have a friend named John Williamson.
And then Bill Melchioni.
No.
I thought you were going to get Melchioni.
I got half.
You got half. But those are the 6, and then Carter will be the 7th. Jason Kidd and I think Richard Jefferson will be the guys to do it. I think they'll be there when the jersey gets retired, or they'll be involved somehow. But this was well-deserved, right? Like, this was well-earned on Carter. I mean, the Nets don't have a history of superstars of the last 20 years. It's a very short list. And after Jason Kidd, and then after the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving team, I would say that Vince Carter is talent-wise that 4th guy, and production-wise, he was here for longer than Irving and Durant. He played a lot more games. So you can argue that Vince Carter is the 2nd most exciting Net in the last 20 years after Jason Kidd.
When are they retiring Jefferson?
Probably never.
That sucks. I'm guessing Araku stock before they retire.
It depends. If the Nets have 20 years of mediocrity and they don't get any superstars, then yeah, I can see them retiring Richard Jefferson's number. But that's if they suck for the next 20 years.
Fair.
All right, we're going to get to the rest of the playoffs because I want to talk about it. The Knicks' demise. That's number 1 on the topic list. How happy were you when they lost Game 7, when they got absolutely pummeled by the Indiana Pacers, one of the most gritty teams left in the postseason?
You know what's funny? On paper, I don't hate the players on the Knicks. I respect the hell out of Brunson. Brunson's automatic. You can't hate a dude who worked his ass off as a small point guard where nobody saw him excelling the way he does and shooting 50% from the field.
Watch me.
Even Jay Wright, his coach at Villanova, was like, I expected him to be I forget the exact comparison, like a Rondo. He expected him to be like a winning point guard on a good team. He said he's a winner. He was going to be a great distributor. No one expected him to be this level of scoring. He was the best scorer in the playoffs this year. It's unbelievable. Love Brunson. I hate Josh Hart, but I will say Josh Hart is one of those guys that I wouldn't hate him if he was on my team. He's a hustle guy. He's pretty clutch. I don't like a guy who's not good and then hits a couple playoff shots and thinks he's the man. So I think he's a loser. But Hart stepped up. I don't like DiVincenzo. I like McBride. I like Hartenstein. I love OG Anunoby. I like all these guys that stepped up. I like Alex Burks. I respect all those dudes. So it's not even that I hate the players. I hate the fans because I saw the best tweet, and I'm going to paraphrase. And it was, instead of talking about the Mavs closing out against the Thunder, instead of talking about the T-Wolves in Game 7 or the Pacers winning in Game 7 and having one of the best shooting performances ever, we're giving out participation trophies to the Knicks. Because that's what Knicks fans do, right? Like, the Knicks fans expect the Knicks to win a championship, and then when they never do, they're always like, no matter what amazing season, we're so proud of all these guys who put the work in. It's so annoying. At least as Nets fans, I root for the Nets and know they're not going to do well. Or I'm so skeptical. Like, the Knicks fans are so delusional that they're going to succeed and then immediately take it all back and are like, oh, no, no matter how far we went, no matter how far you went, you would have been proud of this team. You just said they were going to win the championship, but now they got out in the second round and you're just so proud that they put the effort in. So living in New York, being surrounded by those types of fans, and then fucking people who don't even like basketball. Like, I have people coming out of the woodwork who don't even know like what NBA teams are in which cities, but because they're from New York, they're now pissing on people and talking shit in favor of the Knicks. So for those reasons, I wanted the Knicks to lose. If I hear one more person say, I love this team, if I hear one more Knicks fan say, quote, I love this team, shut up. I love this team, man. Oh, like, you're talking about, it sounds like you're talking about your dog. Like, you don't own the Knicks. They're never that good. And Brunson's dope, and you still didn't go far. So just shut the fuck up to all Knicks fans. I was very happy the Knicks lost. I was more impressed with the Pacers winning. Dude, Halliburton is the guy. First round of the playoffs, in the middle of and kind of like the first couple games against the Knicks, he wasn't great in crunch time. I saw him those last 2 or 3 minutes get pretty hesitant and start kind of like leaving his feet, getting some turnovers. He shies away sometimes from a wide open layup to try to make an outlet, to make a pass out to the perimeter. He's just got to be a little more confident sometimes. Last couple games, he has stepped up. Miles Turner, the most tenured Pacer, is freaking sick right now. I love me some Pascal Siakam. That's a champion right there. And the young guys like Nembhard, Nesmith, great defenders, hitting open shots. They're shooting an unbelievable percentage. And you know who I love, Spen, more than anybody? TJ McConnell.
Yeah.
Was he 32 years old? And the dude is the biggest spark off the bench since like Jamal Crawford or J.R. Smith. This is crazy. So to answer your question, more proud of the Pacers than I am like angry at the Knicks or upset about or hateful about the Knicks. But with all of that said, nothing in this entire, and I'll let you talk about the Knicks, nothing in this entire playoff series has upset me more than the Pacers blowing game 1 against the Celtics.
Yeah. We're going to get to that. And I'm going to explain why you need to chill the fuck out with that whole blowing game 1 thing. Just I'll get there. We're going to talk about the Knicks quickly. All right. A few things. You said I can't hate Jalen Brunson. I don't care that he's better than people expected. I still hate him.
Why? He's like a respectful dude. He's like kind.
He has nothing to do with his personality. I hate that he foul hunts. I hate that he manipulates the refs. That bothers me.
But is that a him problem or is that an NBA problem?
It's probably both. And I hate the fact that he's the most beloved New York athlete since Derek Jeter. Like,
I will tell you, I was on the subway back from Long Island into New York City. I was on the LIRR, and it was Game 7 on Sunday for the Knicks Pacers, and 3 Knicks fans from Forest Hills got on the train, and they're talking, they're fucking pumped, they're all like 40 years old, and one dude just goes, man, when I grew up, it was kind of the end of Starks and Ewing. I got to watch Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell, Carmelo Anthony. By far, Jalen Brunson is the best Knick of all time. He's been there for 1 fucking year.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. The bar is extremely low. Like, there are people in New York, if they had to make a Mount Rushmore of New York sports figures, it'd be Joe Namath, Derek Jeter, Eli Manning, and then Jalen Brunson. Like right there. It's ridiculous. So that's number one. Fuck Jalen Brunson. Fuck the New York Knicks. Number two. What's hilarious about this how this ended for the Knicks, they didn't even get out of the second round. That's how far the Nets went against Milwaukee. We went to game 7 and lost in overtime. Knicks got pummeled on their home floor against the Indiana Pacers. And despite all the injuries, which happened in the postseason, okay, it happens, right? Hart hurt his ribs. I get that. Jalen Brunson breaks his hand in the third quarter, and the game was already over by then. So that really didn't affect the result. The Knicks were supposed to win this series despite the injuries. That game 5 beatdown that they gave Indiana to go up 3-2. I said to myself, there's no way Indiana's going to – they might win game 6. They're not winning game 7 in the Garden. It was one of the bigger choke jobs of all time. And you're right. The fact that every single Knicks said, injuries, didn't get it done, they didn't live up to the expectations. They're a 2 seed. I don't care how hurt you are. You were supposed to get out of this. You were supposed to face the finals. You were supposed to face the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it would have been okay if you lost. I don't think anyone would have been like, but you should have got there. You should have got farther than the Nets, and you didn't. That is what I love about everything that took place. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they're going to replicate the same success they had this year. I just don't see it.
Like I said, I respect.
And I'll tell you why. So many things went right for them. OG Anunoby came in. It was a perfect, seamless fit. Teams did not know how to match up with him and Jalen Brunson. Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo both played out of their fucking minds. Okay? Josh Hart was a double-double machine, occasionally got to triple-double, and DiVincenzo became one of the best shooters in the league. That is not, and then Hartenstein. Let's talk about Isaiah Hartenstein. The guy became a ridiculous center in terms of defense and rebounding, and offensively he can hit that little floater. And he was a dog on the boards. Deuce McBride, very talented player. So I just think a lot went right for the Knicks this year, despite the injuries. I don't, and get this, the East is going to be better next year, right? Miami's going to come back. Milwaukee's going to come back. Boston's going to come back. You know, there's a lot of teams in there that Chicago's going to come back and try to run it back. Atlanta's still got some guys. So Indiana is still in the East. I look at the Knicks and I just don't think they're going to replicate the same success they had this year. So
I think the NBA will also adjust and make some rules around Jalen Brunson's fouls. So like the Harden rules they created, I think Brunson should start to get some bigger, what's the word I'm looking for? Like cracking down on a lot of the moves he does to draw fouls, which again, if I'm a player, a Trae Young, a Jalen Brunson, you're smaller, you know how to use your body, you know how to position yourself and get hit. Would I maybe do that if it was smart? Yes, but the NBA needs to crack down because it's not on the players to be more honorable of players.
All right, Nick, we got to talk about the Pacers Celtics. So you brought up this series. So Boston's up 1-0. And without watching the game last night, you think, oh, of course, Boston's a 1 seed, Indiana's a 6 seed. The game's at TD Garden. It makes sense that Boston would win game 1. It was not a convincing win. Jason Tatum struggled mightily throughout the game. He was able to turn it on in overtime. The Pacers choked down the stretch in this one. A few sloppy turnovers from Tyrese Halliburton.
They had the ball with 8.5 seconds left, up 3. You can't even say they choked.
Well, there were multiple plays, though. There were multiple plays that led to that. So I'm going to reason.
I know.
I'm going to reason with you. The Celtics played a better basketball game for 3 quarters, basically, than the Pacers. The Pacers would go on these runs to end each half, each quarter, and they'd make it close. But the Celtics were the better team for 3 quarters of the night. And the Pacers weren't great. I got guys like Drew Holiday was hitting shots. Jaylen Brown was hitting shots. Al Horford was hitting threes. The fourth quarter, the Pacers kind of remembered who they were, and they went on that run, you know, with like 5-6 minutes left in the fourth. They were able to create some distance. And then obviously down the stretch, you're right. They gave the game to the Celtics. At least they gave the Celtics the opportunity to go into overtime. But I'll tell you this, Nick, you were so upset. You're like, I'm turning off the game. I can't watch SportsCenter. If I'm the Pacers, I'm floored. They did not play their best basketball. They did not play their best basketball, and they were in this game. They had a chance to win. They had a chance to steal game 1. Yes, they made some stupid mental errors at the end, not fouling up 3. The Halliburton turnovers, the Siakam out of bounds turnover, those were awful. But defensively, I think they can frustrate the Celtics a little bit. I think Naismith can give Tatum a hard time. And I think that game 2, Indiana is going to come out with a sense of confidence that they can win in the TD Garden. I'm telling you, I know ball. You got to trust me.
You're just not taking into the biggest factor into consideration, which is momentum. It's do you know how demoralizing that game was for the Indiana Pacers? The Celtics have been the favorite to win the NBA Finals for 2 years in a row. They have, I think it was like they have been in 5 of the last 6 or 5 of the last 7 Eastern Conference Finals. You can tell by the way the Celtics carry themselves, they're fucking all business. They expect to win. They're not smiling. Like I was talking shit to my Boston friends because the Celtics are not playing with heart. The Celtics are playing with purpose. The Celtics are playing with discipline, but they're not playing with heart. You see the Pacers going after every loose ball. You see the Pacers smiling, having a good time, amping each other up. The Celtics are so expected to win that they go in, no smiles, fully like taking care of business, and they're unbelievable. The roster is probably the best the Celtics have been since 2008, since they won that championship with Allen, Pierce, and Garnett. But my issue that you're saying right now, you're kind of thinking optimistically, right? They made it a close game. They were expected
I'm not thinking optimistically.
They were 9.5 point dogs, the Pacers, 9.5. Nobody expected them to even come close to winning this game. And they had the game won. Game 1 against the number 1 seed in the East, the number 1 contender to win the NBA Finals. You had the game won. You were going to lose game 2 if you won that game. Absolutely. But you were going to go back to Indiana after absolutely destroying people at your home court in Indiana this season, 1-1. You cannot ask for a better situation. I mean, 2-0, but that's just unrealistic. You are going home 1-1, feeling fucking incredible. And if you win those 2 home games like you'd be expected to, you are up 3-1. All you have to do is pull one more game off. All they had to do was with 8.5 seconds left, all they had to do was inbound the ball. And they failed to do that. I'm blaming Carlisle for not calling a better play. I'm blaming Siakam for not pushing off of Jaylen Brown or flopping because Jaylen Brown grabbed his jersey. And I did have a problem with the refs in the last minute of the game because I do feel Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum get a lot of calls, and yet smaller guys like a McConnell, like a Nembhard get bumped by Horford too and don't get the calls when they go flying. So I'm not going to blame it on the refs. The Pacers lost this game. They handed it to the Celtics. I knew when they went to overtime, it was over. You don't go to overtime when you should have won a game and still somehow win the game after you gave it away and gave someone a chance to come back, especially against the Celtics, especially in Boston, especially a number 1 seed. So if I'm the Pacers right now, I went into that locker room completely demoralized thinking, wow, we just gave up the best possible scenario in this entire series to give ourselves a position to upset the number 1 seed. Now I'm going into game 2, which feels now more like a must win. I know it's not because I know you can go down 2-0 and win both games at home. But the fact that they had the opportunity, dude, I don't care if you get outplayed for 3 quarters and 10 minutes and you outplay a team for 2 minutes. I don't care because what matters is they stuck around. Like you said, the Celtics outplayed them. The Celtics were more consistent. The Pacers stuck around and they fucking closed when they needed to. And then with 8.5 seconds left, they threw the ball to the other team and lost the game. Of course, Jaylen Brown hit an unbelievable shot. You almost knew that was going in because you give them that many chances. And then, of course, Jason Tatum hits the 3 to go up 4 with 50 seconds left or 42 seconds left in overtime because he hadn't had a shot all fucking game. And you gave them both the opportunity to come back and win the game. So I don't know in what world you've ever been on a sports team, Spen, where you go home after giving a game away feeling good. That's just like delusional to me. So fucking check yourself.
It's not delusional, Nick. And let me tell you a few facts that you're missing out. So if I'm Rick Carlisle, yeah, he took blame for that loss. He said that was on me. The end of that game was on me. You know, I didn't do, I'm paraphrasing, but he pretty much said like the decisions that he made resulted in the team going in overtime and eventually losing. Here are a few facts. Indiana turned the ball over 21 times yesterday. The Celtics turned the ball over 14 times. That's not going to happen every night. Indiana is undefeated at home in the postseason. The Celtics lost game 2 in the last series to the Cavs. Yes, they'd go on to win the next 3, but the Celtics are not untouchable in the TD Garden, and the Pacers proved that the other night because they had a chance to win and they blew it. The Pacers are a deeper team than the Celtics, Nick. The Pacers went basically 9 deep because Jalen Smith got 1 minute of action. But they basically went 9 deep. They bring Obi Toppin, Isaiah Jackson, McConnell, and Shepard off the bench. The Celtics bring Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett, and Peyton Pritchard off the bench. So the Pacers are a deeper team than Boston. I just look at this and I say, look at how these series have gone. The Pacers lost 2 heartbreakers to the Knicks in that 7-game series. I think it was game 1 and game 2, right? Because Nembhard hit that huge shot in game 3. The Pacers have been down in this postseason. They lost the first 2 games to New York, and what'd they do? They won the next 3 out of 4 to win this, or I guess the next 4 out of 5 to win the series. I think that this Pacers team is dangerous.
Very different than the Celtics.
I understand. This Pacers team is younger than the Celtics. They play quicker than the Celtics. What I'm also acknowledging is Tatum's not gonna shoot as poorly as he did for most of the game each night. He did end up with 36 because of the overtime, 36 and 12 for Tatum, 28 points for Holiday. Drew Holiday was incredible. Incredible last night. And then 26 points for Jaylen Brown and the game tying 3. And let's give Jaylen Brown some credit. That was one of the most clutch shots I have seen in a long time.
And why wasn't he fouled? Why didn't they foul? They literally
I think Siakam was a little bit scared to foul him shooting.
I know.
I think that's what didn't foul. But Nick, I gave you a ton of facts. I didn't give you opinion. I gave you facts. Pacers lost a turnover battle. Pacers are deeper than the Celtics. Pacers are younger and quicker than the Celtics, and the Pacers were down last series and they came back. If I'm the Pacers, this game gave me nothing but confidence. I'm going into the locker room and I'm saying, hey, we fucked up. We made some mental errors. We kind of gave them an opportunity to hit a shot and send the game into overtime, and by overtime they were gassed. They had nothing left. You're right. All momentum had swung Boston's way. But if you come out in game 2 and you get a convincing victory over the Celtics and Halliburton, who, by the way, I was not pleased with Halliburton in games. I guess it was 5 of that best of 7 against the Knicks. I thought he was terrible at that game 5 at MSG. He's been a relevation from 3. He shot 14 threes in this one, 6 of 14. He had 25 points. He was 8 of 18 from the field, 10 assists. But he has shown that he can get to another level. Siakam is a mid-range assassin. All right. He can do work in the mid. And you talked about the rest of the team. So I'm not going to get into that. The final thing I'll say about the Pacers, what I love, everyone on this team knows their role. From number 1 to number 12. Even when James Johnson's on the court and he's trying to intimidate the opponent by just staring at them through their souls, because they know if they act up, they're going to have to answer to him. Everyone on this team knows their role. Everyone plays it well. You brought up McConnell. Even Isaiah Jackson as the backup center plays his role well. I look at this series and I think there's no way this goes 5. This is going to go 6 or 7. And I think Indiana has a chance to shock the Celtics and win the series.
I think you could tell me facts and I could tell you they're all circumstantial. The Knicks can't compare to the Celtics. And they did not lose a game to the Knicks in the fashion that they just.
Well, what about the turnover battle?
What about it?
You're telling me that if the Pacers don't have, there were 3 sloppy turnovers in the final minute, right? Halliburton, when he was basically forced out of bounds because Drew Holiday is a ridiculous defender, so that was 1 turnover. The one where Halliburton was dribbling up and then he just lost the ball and Naismith tried to save it, that was 2 turnovers, and then the Siakam play.
Yeah,
if they don't make.
They made them, though. They made those mistakes.
Yeah, but
the most important game in a better series, in a tougher series.
Right, but I'm saying okay. But Nick, that is not the norm. That is not usually going to happen.
Right, and shooting
and what I told you, what I told you earlier is that the Celtics outplayed them for the majority of this game. For 3.5 quarters, the Celtics were beating them.
You think the Pacers are going to do 54%?
I don't like. You're not really listening to what I'm saying. Like, there is a reason if you're the Pacers to go into TD Garden and spank them on their heinies on Thursday. You literally have the blueprint. Don't turn the ball over 3 times in the final 2 minutes. Foul if you're up 3. These are easily fixable mistakes, is what I'm trying to say.
But they have to get into that position again in order to not make them, which means getting in position, they have to shoot lights out in the 4th quarter. They have to shoot over 50% from the field in arguably the most intimidating arena in the States, in Boston.
It's not the most. That arena was not very loud.
MSG is probably a little bit more. But my point being, yes, you're right. They have to not make those mistakes. But they also have to get in a position again where they are up 3, and that's just as difficult. And I hope they do. But I'm saying right now it's going to be 4-1 Celtics.
I'm going to say 2 things about the Celtics. One is basketball related, one's not. Number 1, The thing I do like about the Celtics, I'm going to give them a compliment here. Their offense, so they can go isolation. Like you look at the Clippers, right? The reason the Clippers lost to the Mavericks is because their offense was solely centered around isolating Paul George and James Harden and trying to work off that. The Celtics have that with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but they also move the ball very, very well. They had 30 assists in this game. Guys like Derek White, guys like Drew Holiday, Al Horford. When Tatum and Brown don't have the ball does not stay still. It's hopping. So I do like the fact that from a basketball perspective, the Celtics have a nice blend of isolation play and good ball movement. That's very rare, and that's probably why they're one of the better teams in the league. That's number one. Do you have any comments or anything on that?
No.
Just a good, astute basketball observation. This is not basketball related. After watching the Knicks-Pacers series and watching the Celtics-Pacers game 1, the Celtics celebrity section is terrible. They just kept showing.
They have the most racist fan base in the country.
All right, fine. Sure. But they just kept showing Big Papi and Donnie Wahlberg. Every big basket, it was like, look, it's David Ortiz and Donnie Wahlberg. Who doesn't love Blue Bloods fucking star, Boston man, Donnie Wahlberg? They couldn't even get Mark, Nick. They got Donnie.
Some might say that's even better.
I mean, it's yeah, no, I get it. In some ways it is, but I just thought that was funny. Like when you go to New York, you see you see Chris Rock, you see Jon Stewart, you see Spike Lee. Go to Boston, it's Big Papi and Donnie Wahlberg. All right, Nick, one final thing. Mavericks, Timberwolves, going to be a fun series. Let's give our predictions. So let's start with Mavs, Timberwolves. Who do you like in this series and why?
I like the T-Wolves 4-2. I think the Mavs should have lost to the Thunder. I actually thought the Thunder are more a complete team, but the Thunder are super young and inexperienced. I mean, you're looking at guys like Chet Holmgren, Wallace. I think there's a Williams on there. Just guys who seem to have a lot of potential, hit some big shots, but couldn't come together in that last game against the Mavs.
There's two Williams on there.
Two Williams, right? There's
Jalen Williams and there's Jalen Williams.
Yes, and everyone looks. I love the future of that Thunder team. Giddey had atrocious playoffs, but I love the future of that Thunder team. I just think they weren't ready. I think the Mavs have had a slightly easier road right now than a lot of the other teams. The T-Wolves had to beat the Nuggets, that you could argue are the second best team in the league after the Celtics on most nights. Nuggets kind of fumbled the bag in that last game, not going to get onto Mike Malone's sore loserness, but I think the T-Wolves right now, team-wise, talking about kind of every position filled, you have Ant Edwards, who I'm getting a little frustrated with the Jordan comparisons because it's really early on, and he's pretty sick. Like, the dude can jump out of the gym. He's hit some huge shots. He's had some great games. He's had some okay games. He's looked lesser than stars at times, not even comparing to Jordan. So I want to get the Jordan comparisons to a minimum, but I like Ant Edwards as the face of this team. I think Karl Anthony Towns and Gobert are the best 4 and 5 in the league right now. You're not going to have a better big man combo than those two. You're looking at the defensive player of the year, and I don't know anybody maybe besides Jokic that could shoot as well as KAT from all over the court and still rebound as well. Maybe Anthony Davis, but he's getting older. So, and don't get me started on the most underrated player in the league, Mike Conley. The GOAT, Mike Conley. I love this T-Wolves team. I think they have some great talent if they can continue playing. I think the Mavs, when you go outside of Doncic, Irving, I like Derek Lively. He's young, but they still don't really have a great big to match up against the Wolves. So I'm going to say Wolves 4-2. I think the Mavs get 2 at home. I think the Wolves are still going to be the better and more complete team and earn their way to the championship. If we're talking Celtics, Pacers, I'm going to go Celtics. I want the Pacers more than anything I've ever wanted in my life. Like, my girlfriend can dump me tomorrow if the Pacers win. That's fine. But
he's just joking.
I think the
Nick's girlfriend.
I think the Celtics have all the momentum, if not 4-1, 4-2 Celtics.
All right. So I like what you said. Minnesota, I'm with you. I think they win in 7. I think that Luka and Kyrie are going to get the Mavs 3 games, but I do think that the length of the front court for Minnesota will be a problem. I think Jaden McDaniels will end up guarding Luka, and that'll be a fun matchup. Anthony Edwards on Kyrie. You'll probably want to put Mike Conley on who's ever their 3. So if Hardaway's in the game, or even like PJ Washington, just don't let him get inside. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Mavs are a very well-constructed team in the sense that they got some really good role players around Luka and Kyrie and Gafford, Hardaway Jr. comes off the bench. Dante Exum's been nice for them in moments. And then they have Derek Lively, who, like Gobert and Towns are going to have their hands full because the Mavs are not small. They have 2 legitimate starting 5s in the NBA. But I agree. I think that Anthony Edwards will take over some of these games at home. He'll lead Minnesota to 1 or 2 victories by himself. Karl Anthony Towns will have some big games. Naz Reid off the bench, 6th man of the year. He'll have some big moments. And I like the Timberwolves to upset the Mavs in 7. And I'll tell you this, there was a moment in that Timberwolves Nuggets game 7. And did you watch that game?
Yes.
Do you remember the Rudy Gobert fadeaway with like 5-6 minutes? When he hit that shot, I was like, I think the Timberwolves are going to win the whole thing. That I've never seen him even practice that shot. The fact he was a turnaround with a shot clock and he just hit it. Oh,
win the game. Yes. I was like, they're winning this game. Win the whole thing. He's never hitting that shot again.
I don't know, dude. That was
the game
playoff Rudy.
In that direction.
All right. So I like the Timberwolves in 7 and then Pacers versus Celtics. Dude, I'm not even kidding. I think I'm going to go Pacers in 7. And I'm not even being biased about that. I think that the Pacers have a very, very gritty team that can frustrate the Celtics. I said this earlier. I don't. The funny thing about the Pacers, they're one of the least talented teams in the East. Like the Celtics ooze talent, right? Like there are 4 guys in the Celtics. You could have made a case that could have been all-stars this year. For the Pacers, you have like 1.5 with Halliburton and Siakam. But
you're right.
They remind me, this is such a bad comparison. I don't even want to say this out loud, but just in terms of like how level they are, they remind me of like the Pistons back in the day, like with the Billups, Rip Hamilton teams. Like no one on those teams were amazing. I think Billups and Sheed and I guess they had 3 Hall of Famers. Now that I think about it,
bro, that team was Tayshaun Prince. You had McDyess coming off. Like
listen. There's something about Indiana. The fact that they go 9 deep. No. I'm not. But this is not my bias. This is just the way that I've seen them compete and just come back after they've been not like for them to win the next 2 games after getting punked at Madison Square Garden in Game 5. And like we said, TD Garden is an easier place to play than Madison Square Garden. Maybe it might be the 2nd or 3rd hardest place to play in the NBA.
Harder team, easier place. Sure.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. All right. That's it. No disrespect to the Celtics. I think they're the better team. I don't know. Something about Indiana. There's like a magical thing I've noticed with Indiana. All right, Nick, let's wrap up this podcast.
Knicks fans.
Thank you guys.
That's all I got to say.
What you say?
Knicks fans, check yourself. Look in the mirror. See what happens.
Yeah, especially if you're coming from going to, what were the guys on the train coming from
Forest Hills and going to Penn Station. Calling Jalen Brunson the best Nick of all time. Yeah, I wish I saw their faces after Game 7. Oh.
All right.
All right, good show.
Thank you guys for listening to Fireside Nets with Spen and Nick. I'm going to try to be more consistent with putting out episodes throughout the summer. It can get tough, but you guys deserve the best, and the best is us putting out Nets content, talking about what's happening in the NBA. Shout out to Josh Belinsky, who will be getting married this weekend. Very happy for him. Nick and my parents will be at the wedding. Just really happy for him. Such a great human being, and his hair, man. I mean, when you talk about carrots, his hair is amazing. All right, and shout out to Slate Milk, the best lactose-free chocolate milk on the market. If you're in the gym a lot, if you like protein, you like chocolate milk, get some Slate. Peace. And Nick, anything else did I leave anything else out?
No, that's all I got.
No, that's about it. All right. Thank you guys again for listening, and tune in next week to another edition of Fireside Nets.
Bye.